Salutations to the Nerdy Nation. It is I, Matt, and I am here. He is the Jar Jar to my Han Solo. Uh, it's Trey.
It's me. He's the he's the Tribble to my parasitic brainworm thing from the second Star Wars movie. I don't know. Star Trek, I meant. This is off to a great start.
It is. Yeah, we started out great. So this show is going to be a little bit different than other shows that I've put on. Because I have I have a dumbass over there to the opposite side of the screen for me. But we are, what's our name?
Couchbound Yetis.
Yeah, we're the Couchbound Yetis, which is exciting.
That's my Yeti noise.
Your Yeti noise.
I am.
Your Yeti noise kind of sucks.
You know what sucks? You. Let's get this shit going, bitch.
All right, so we are talking about Star Wars versus Star Trek. So, I'm just gonna say this to the chat. Star Trek is better. So, yeah, that's pretty much it. We're done.
Oh, okay. What do you want to talk about now?
No. No, what do you think, Trey? I mean, do you think right now there's an apparent winner here?
Look, I guess my opening thesis is I prefer Star Trek. I like them both. Okay, I like different iterations and aspects of both. So I think that there's probably, I'm going to go out on a limb and say that there are probably more bad Star Trek movies than there are bad Star Wars movies.
Take that back.
But I still prefer Star Trek. Star Wars.
Go ahead.
Go ahead, Matt. No, please. What you had to say was so fucking important.
I'll fucking interrupt you whenever I goddamn want to, yo.
Apparently. Anyway, I was going to say they're very different. Besides that, they share the same, the first word.
Yes.
They're very different. So I kind of think pitting them against each other is not really fair. I really don't think you should do that. Because it's like saying, oh, do you like Lord of the Rings or do you like Dune? And it's like, well, they're both good and they're both vastly different, even though they're both like epic stories.
The answer to that is Dune.
No.
Yes.
No.
Yes.
I love Dune. And we're not here to talk about that right now. Don't you dare get inside.
Okay. So I guess we've got to start out because I think that I have an opinion that you are not going to agree with, okay?
All right.
Okay, so I think if you had just had the original Star Trek and then you paired it up against Star Wars is the winner.
Yeah. Like, you just have the original series with Kirk and Spock and everybody, but you have all of existing Star Wars.
Yeah.
Including the prequels and the cartoons and the comics and the modern movies.
Well, I guess I'm even saying if you just had the original 3 films, and you put that up against just the original series and the original series movies, you still have a better plot with just the original Star Wars 3.
I don't think I disagree with that. I think that you are probably right. I don't know. That's tough because like Wrath of Khan is so good, and there's so many good storylines in the original Star Trek. If you said the original series, like the TV series, not including the movies, and if you had to stack that against the first 3 Star Wars, I would be more inclined to agree with you. But
The original series is basically who is Captain Kirk going to try and fuck today?
no, it's not.
Pretty much.
He doesn't. He doesn't even actually do it that much. He doesn't even.
He does it a lot.
Like he throws leering glances at ladies, and
that's all they could do back then. They'd throw a leering glance, and then the lady was pregnant.
Yeah, I don't watch Star Trek for Kirk. I don't really give a shit about Kirk. I like Spock.
I like Spock too.
Boom. Spock is probably my favorite character of the original series.
Spock is great. But I still say if you took the original 3 movies of Star Wars and you put it up against the original Star Trek movie, even if you included Star Trek the Animated Series and the Star Trek movies, you would still have Star Wars would still hands down have it.
Yeah, I think you're probably right. Just simply because with that you have included one of the greatest films of all time, fucking The Empire Strikes Back. So, how the fuck do you compete with that? I don't think any of the original Star Trek motion pictures, however good they are, especially like the one with the whales and all that bullshit.
I like that movie. I like that one.
Me too. I love that one. But like the one where like 50-year-old Uhura is fan dancing or whatever that Bill Shatner wrote or some shit. Yeah, I think I probably agree with you.
That's, yeah. Even as a child, I was like, I don't see the old woman distracting these people like that.
I mean, she wasn't geriatric, but it's like, oh, Mom, why are you doing a fan dance? Mom, this is really embarrassing. Could you not? Okay, she's doing it. That's great.
So maybe, because we're kind of in agreement that we like Star Trek better than we like Star Wars. It doesn't mean that we dislike Star Wars.
Right, I don't dislike Star Wars at all. I mean, I, of course, don't like the prequels, but everybody and their fucking grandmas talked about why the prequels suck, and I don't need to rehash that shit. If you need to know why the prequels suck, then go watch Mr. Plinkett's reviews on Red Letter Media.
Oh, and you know what? Actually, let me interrupt you because I have something important to say. Before we go any farther, in the description, you can find a link where you can buy the first piece of Couchbound Yetis merchandise. We have a mug, we have stickers, and every bit of this is going to go towards buying Trey a better microphone.
Look at the advertisement that just popped up on screen.
Yeah, because right now, his microphone is shite. It is.
True.
Frustrated Atheist disagrees and says Star Wars are the best. I'm disagreeing. If he can say something in the chat that proves that Star Wars is the best, we'll read it and we'll change our minds. But I doubt it's...
Nobody's perfect. Frustrated. So.
But I guess maybe we can take different aspects. So on the screen right now, you see the Enterprise and you see the Millennium Falcon. So which wins in a fight?
I don't care. Okay, let me say what I'm thinking. Like, I don't usually go in my place to like nerd shit like, oh, I bet Worf could fight Chewbacca. I don't give a shit. That's dumb to me. What I will say about the Millennium Falcon versus the Enterprise, I think Star Wars in general has the far superior visual design. I think the aliens are better. I think the spaceships are better. The world building, the way it looks, all the original Ralph McQuarrie fucking artwork for the original 3 films, and they get some of the best fucking conceptual artists to work on that. Star Wars, visually, for their designs of the world and of the spaceship and of the creatures, like, they have that over Star Trek hands down. Like, I don't dislike...
Oh, no, but see, here's the deal. I like the sleek designs. I like the sleekness of the Star Trek ships, the Klingons. I love all the ships on Star Wars or Star Trek. Star Wars, all their ships seem to be very impractical. Like the TIE fighters are built in a way that they need, like, there's no reason for the wings to be shaped like they are on a TIE fighter. That makes no sense for a spacecraft. Now, go ahead.
I am so much more willing to forgive that shit in a Star Trek in a Star Wars movie, because Star Wars isn't really science fiction to me. It's science fantasy. You basically have a whole universe where you got fucking laser swords and people use magic. Oh, I'm sorry if you don't like me calling the Force magic. I'm sorry, but that's what it is. Okay, so it's more of a fantasy setting to me. So a spaceship not being completely aerodynamically sound and shit, that doesn't bother me, because it's more about the swashbuckling story. It's not about, well, could they really live in the spice mines of Kessel? Or could you live in a spice mine? Could you have a whole desert made of sand? A whole entire planet with a sandy desert? Could you live there? I don't care. It's not the point. The point is the story and the characters.
But I think the point also, one of the things that people will argue is that Star Wars, they're, like you said, it's more fantasy than it is the sci-fi that Star Trek is. But we could also go, Star Trek isn't even really sci-fi when you boil it down to it. It's actually a Western. So, because that's what it was meant to be. It was a stagecoach to the stars, or whatever, a wagon train to the stars. And so it follows the same plot lines as a lot of Westerns in that era when it began. You're coming across actually, I'm going to take that back, because one of my problems with the original Star Trek series is how many episodes revolve around them coming across a planet that the person there thinks they're God, or acts like they have godlike powers, and they have to outwit the godlike creature on the planet. That's a recurring thing, and it kind of, it's annoying.
See, here's the thing. When I say that Star Wars is fantasy, what I mean is it has a lot of fantasy tropes. It has the archetypical hero with Luke in the original 3, because it's based on, was that John Campbell, who's the guy who wrote the hero's journey, or whatever it's called.
Oh, that was your mom.
Oh, okay. So when my mom wrote that book, that's what George Lucas based. He was very much heavily influenced by that, along with old serials like Buck Rogers, from the 40s and shit like that. So it has a lot of those tropes. It even goes so far as to have people in armor and people with swords, and Star Trek. I mean, I guess I've never really thought of it being as a Western. Because Westerns a lot of times in my mind are about justice, or revenge or shit like that. I'm thinking along the lines of the Day of Anger, and the Good, the Bad, and the Ugly, and whatever. But it's more hard sci-fi. It still has very goofy elements to it. And a lot of that, especially with the original series, is just due to lack of budget, and you can only guess so far when you're in the 1960s of how technology is going to progress. But it's definitely more nuts and bolts sci-fi, and it's about ideas more than it is. I don't want to say it's about ideas more than it is characters, but I think it's about ideas more than Star Wars is. Star Trek is definitely more political, and it has more things to say about. I mean, maybe people who love Star Wars would shit their pants hearing me say that. I don't know. But I think one of the main reasons for Star Trek is to have stories that they tell that are about racism, and only guised as like a science fiction story.
Yeah. So I guess my biggest issue when it comes to sci-fi fantasy, when it comes to like Star Wars, is it doesn't really make sense. It like I can understand, like, you have a galactic wide civilization. Um, that's going to take some pretty tough handling in order to keep it together. And so I always see the Empire as being like the picked on good guys. Uh, because, I mean, they've got to be harsh with some of these planets. Like,
Yeah, they're fucking making jobs for people and keeping people employed and clothed and fed.
exactly. Like, how many jobs? Okay, here's a good example. Like, if you go from the end of the original trilogy and then you go to the new series, there's not that many years, and yet you have the galaxy has basically fallen to another dictatorship because the rebellion force was just shit. They didn't know anything about taxes. They might have had the best words. They
They had a space force.
they had a space force, but they really had nothing else. Like, they couldn't keep the galaxy together for 50 years or so. It just. And how many times are you going to be surprised when it's just a bigger weapon that the enemies have built?
Yeah, well, that's a bad writing problem there. That's that's not necessarily like that's not a science fantasy problem. That's a bad writing problem.
I would agree. We have a pretty controversial statement in the chat right now that I'd like to address. It says, "You might think I'm a heretic for saying this, and this is from Mediocrity's Maze, but Benedict Cumberbatch made a better Khan than the original Ricardo Montalban."
I mean, I think Benedict Cumberbatch is a great actor. Okay, I'm going to be real with you now. I haven't seen any of the J.J. Abrams Star Trek movies. I just don't care. They didn't really interest me. I mean, they could be great. I don't know. I don't have time to watch every movie in the world, and it just didn't really catch my interest because because he made them more of an adventure film series than Star Trek should be. That's kind of what I don't like about Star Trek Discovery, is it looks like it's all about space explosions, and it's not about, all of the philosophical things, all of the philosophical stories and ideas that would go on in the original and TNG and shit like that.
Yeah, I don't like the reboots. I gave them a chance. I've watched them all, but they just don't feel like Star Trek. Who killed more, Rebels or the Empire? I would assume the Empire. I mean, the Empire could blow up a planet, but if the Rebels weren't able to feed people after they took over, there was probably mass starvation.
How many people were on Leia's planet when Peter Cushing blew it up?
I don't know. Like, I don't know, but here's something you got to think about. The Empire probably had all kinds of extensive records of all the planets that had people living on them.
Right.
That was probably destroyed.
That's some poor droid's job.
Yeah.
All that shit.
Some droid's job out there, and that droid broke down, and now they have no idea where these people live. So people are starving by the trillions. It's just awful.
See, that's the thing. You can't break it down like that. You can't, like this. It's going to break down if you apply that much logic to it. And this is going back to what I said earlier. Star Wars isn't about hard logic and hard nuts and bolts science fiction. It's about the adventure, and it's about the emotion and the story. So that's why I don't I can't watch Star Wars and go, what are the real implications of a Wookiee being amongst humans and not fighting with other Wookiees and what's the economy like on Kazooie or wherever the fucking Wookiee homeworld is? It doesn't. I can't, because that takes away from what makes it good to me. But with Star Trek, different story.
Whatever. Okay, so I want you to list off a couple of your favorite characters from the Star Wars universe, and we'll discuss that. And then I'll list off a couple of mine.
I really like Yoda. He's a fun character. I kind of have probably because of Star Wars, I have a soft spot for like ancient, wise, non-human, mystical characters. I think that's a very fun trope.
Do you also just like really short elderly men?
I like puppets. Not a lie. I love Muppets. I like Yoda. I don't know. Okay, I would have to break this down. I'm sorry. I can't. This is what I do. I can't answer every question with like, I like this and this. I have to break it down because I like different characters for different reasons. I like a character in Star Wars because he has a cool design and I don't know jack shit about his backstory because I don't give a shit. I like, so like in terms of villains, of course, Darth Vader is one of the greatest fictional villains ever. Hands down, is one of the best, and that is due probably like, I'm going to say a good 60% of what makes Darth Vader great is James Earl Jones.
Yeah, can you believe that he wasn't originally going to be the voice?
Yeah, that's fucked.
And the guy, like, if they had gone with the original actor, the one that you see at the end of, my mind just went, The Empire Strikes Back, or Return of the Jedi.
Yeah.
Return of the Jedi, when you see him take off his mask, that whole film would be so much less cool, I think.
Just as an old guy, and he would sound like an old guy, but James Earl Jones has God's voice, so he makes him so much more intimidating.
Now, would it have been even cooler if it had been Morgan Freeman?
No, because Morgan Freeman...
Did you say Mormon Freeman?
Shut the hell up. Morgan Freeman doesn't have an intimidating voice. He has a very rich and kind of mesmerizing voice, but he's more of somebody who's going to teach you something, not somebody who's going to tell you that they want those plans and they're going to fucking torture you with some ridiculous-looking floating torture robot.
How about Bobcat Goldthwait as Darth Vader?
Perfect. See, that's the only way Star Wars is better. I'm gonna get those plans from you.
Oh,
where the princess go?
Oh my God, that's great. So you said Yoda, you said Darth Vader. I think that Yoda's cool. Like, of course I loved Yoda. I was a kid of the 80s. Every kid of the 80s adored Yoda. When it comes to Darth Vader, I really like Darth Vader. But if I'm looking at characters that I absolutely loved as a kid, I gotta go with Jabba the Hutt.
Yeah, I was gonna say that. I was gonna say Jabba is awesome. He's a fucking big fat gangster, and he's got this fucking palace, and he's like fucking eating frogs and shit. Everybody's a bunch of gross lowlifes, and they're just hanging around, chilling. He's great.
He's got that little lackey rat-like thing.
He's got, what is his fucking name?
I don't know. I'm sure people are going to know.
Crumb. Salacious Crumb is the little weird bird monkey that sits in his lap and strokes off his dick. Dick.
Like, what was Jabba going to do with Leia? Because he couldn't do anything. It
was a power move.
It was just a power.
First of all, don't underestimate what a fat guy can do in bed, okay? And second of all...
He's a slug!
Second of all, it doesn't matter. His dick he could have a big, sluggy alien dick. You don't know. Maybe his whole tail is his dick. Anyway,
I don't think that's right.
I don't think like in my mind, he didn't have Leia there because he's like, oh, I want to fuck this woman that's not even my species. He did it because he's being an asshole. He did it to make her like be submissive and subordinate to him. He was showing his power. That's how I always interpreted that. I never actually thought Jabba wanted to screw Princess Leia.
I think he did. Didn't he lick her at one point?
Well, probably because he's a gross prevert. He's a gross weirdo. So
I'm pretty sure we were supposed to get like Leia was a sex slave of some type at that point.
I mean, probably, but it doesn't. I don't know. That's putting too much thought into it. Like I said earlier, I don't want to do that with Star Wars because the whole facade will crumble, and I'll just realize how stupid it really is, and I won't like it anymore.
Okay, so here's a character that I absolutely cannot stand that almost everyone thinks is cool. Boba Fett.
Yeah, I mean, Boba Fett doesn't do anything.
No.
He has a cool design, but he just shows up and says, you know, take him to my ship or whatever. He's no good to me dead. And it's like, great, that's cool. Boba Fett is dumb. He doesn't do anything. Who cares about Boba Fett?
He can't fly for shit. And in the end, he falls into a pit and
he
gets
goes
eaten.
out like a bitch. He goes out like a bitch.
I guess we're not supposed to. He didn't technically die if you go by stuff that's not canon.
Why would I do that? I don't want to go by stuff that is canon.
I know.
I just don't want to go by anything in the prequels.
And we are really. And I just burped. That's the kind of show we have here. I can burp when I want to.
Yeah, I can fart when I want to.
Frustrated is saying that we're wrong about the rebels not being able to feed themselves. Then why did it fall to a dictatorship again? Okay, so what's the explanation for the fact that the rebels can't keep the galactic peace for any amount of time? Like, if
because the Empire's probably got all the money.
But here's
money is.
They destroy the Empire. So here's the thing.
Their off-planet banks.
But here's the deal. Like for the new movies to make any sense whatsoever, you basically have to have that new army starting up right after and building up. Because,
yeah, I don't really like that about the new movies. I think that honestly, I really liked The Force Awakens, and I kind of liked that second movie, whatever it was called, Poop in the Poop Stalkers. I don't remember what it was called. What's the fucking most recent Star Wars movie that wasn't Han Solo?
The Last Jedi.
Yeah. I thought it was okay, but I kind of wish they hadn't brought the Empire back. I wish they have made the villain something different.
Like, wouldn't it have been so much cooler? Like, I think the Sith coming back would have been amazing.
Yeah, if they had like a big Sith cult and they had started a cult instead of an empire, that would have been so cool. And they'd have made it more like mystic and shit and like evil with like their dark Sith energy and powers and shit. That would have been awesome. Instead of just retreading the fucking Empire to come back. It's just like, people remember the Empire? I do.
Yes.
Remember Darth Vader?
We've got his mask, which was destroyed, but we found it somehow, and it doesn't really matter.
It was that plastic it was made out of was real tough. Or Luke didn't actually stand there and watch the whole thing burn. He was just there for a couple minutes and got bored and left, and we just
exactly.
Like, fuck it, it's burning, whatever. I want to go to the party and sing Yub Nub.
That's not there anymore.
Fuck you, I know, it's the worst thing.
There's no Yub Nub.
About changing Star Wars for the Blu-rays and shit is taking out Yub Nub. How fucking dare you?
They all still dance to Yub Nub, but the music doesn't really make sense.
Just some generic song. Like, why change it? I can't talk about this.
I guess.
That. See, that's the thing about Star Wars is that it can elicit such a reaction from me, but Star Trek won't, because Star Trek doesn't have stupid shit from the creators that almost ruins it.
Yeah, how many times has Star Trek gone back and changed an episode
I
to
mean, like
make it something else.
in the 90s, they added dated CGI to the original series, which is fine.
Yeah. I mean, it's fine, but that was adding on
Right.
something that just made it a little bit cooler. It
Yeah.
wasn't like making Spock into a Klingon,
Yeah.
or something along those lines.
Gone in and painted out Spock's pointy ears, so he's just a person now.
Yeah, he's
Feel
just a
like
human.
that helped bring the story together.
We've been asked, what about Tag and Bink?
What the fuck is that?
I don't know. Secular's gonna have to say who Tag and
What
Bink
about
is.
George Jetson and Elroy? Did you ever think about that?
I didn't.
Exactly.
I have.
What about those two stupid cat children in Thundercats?
But you know what? If they would have gone, like, I loved the Knights of the Old Republic movies, or not movies, but video games.
I've heard they're good.
They were amazing. They could have gone back to that lore.
Sure.
And gone with that. So Secular is saying that Tag and Bink are the best Star Wars characters.
Okay,
So
who the fuck are they?
I'm gonna have to look them up, and I will get an image. So
Thanks for derailing everything.
Tag and Bink.
I'm gonna look it up too, so I can also see.
Oh, are you serious? Tag and Bink are the guys who caused basically every problem in Star Wars. It's just like a joke series. Okay,
What?
so Secular, thank you so much, Secular. Thank you.
So it's not a real thing?
Not really. It's not. It's not.
Oh, well, fuck it then.
So anyway,
I mean, I can't deal with fucking fan shit with Star Wars or Star Trek. I can't bring fan shit into it. That's too much.
So okay, going over to the Star Trek world.
Yeah.
What are two of your favorite characters from Star Trek?
Spock and Data.
Spock and Data.
Probably my two favorite. Although I love Worf and I mean, Picard is great. The thing is, like, I don't really attach myself emotionally to like authority figures in fiction. So, like, Picard is a cool character, but he's like the captain, and I don't give a shit about that because I'm not going to hang out with the captain. I'm going to hang out with the goofy robot. I'm going to hang out with LeVar Burton with his cool sunglasses because that's awesome.
Yeah.
So, you know, I don't even really think about the captains, which is probably a blasphemous statement when talking about Star Trek, but that's just not who I relate to.
Well,
you know?
if we were going to talk about the captains, my favorite captain is Janeway. I adore Captain Janeway.
I haven't seen enough of Voyager to like comment one way or another. I haven't seen it since I was a kid, basically. I know she turns into a lizard. That was pretty cool.
You watched some of the episodes with me at my house, you motherfucker.
Yes, I know, but that's not watching the whole series. Like, I went through and purposely watched all of TNG so I could be familiarized with it. And I fucking love it. I love TNG a lot. I like it more than the original series. And I like it more than any of the movies, old or new. It's my favorite Star Trek property.
So another controversial thing said in the chat by Frustrated Atheist is Data, is that a ripoff of C-3PO?
No. Not at all.
No.
Not even a little bit. They're so different. It's so different. Because Data is all about discovering his humanity, even though he's not human, and learning what it means to be human. And also, Data's useful and not just dumb comic relief.
Yeah, what does C-3PO do?
Like, honestly, I liked C-3PO as a kid. Watching the movies now, I fucking hate that son of a bitch. He is so obnoxious to me.
Yes. Data has super strength. He
knows all the things.
Yeah. He's able to do so much, and all he wants to be is more human. It's a touching story.
Right.
C3PO is just a
Comic relief.
yeah. He's a strange little robot that just oh no, let's go
Oh,
this
no,
way.
Master Luke. Oh, bad show, Rigby. Oh.
Jade is like, I'll fucking kick your ass and then we'll play some poker.
I don't think that's what Data's really like.
They played poker.
They do play poker.
Yeah.
Spoilers if you haven't seen the very last episode. Fucking gets me all choked up when Captain Picard's like, deal me in. I should have done this a long time ago. And they're like, no, I don't want it to be over.
No, don't say that.
But you gotta quit while you're still having fun.
Oh my god. That
Did I just make you teary? I
yes.
did.
Yes.
Awesome.
Like, okay, that episode, and there's one other episode of Star Trek that gets me every fucking time I watch it. And it's the episode on Voyager. I don't care what people think about Neelix. Okay, I liked Neelix. I like Neelix. He's a cute character. And he's just out there on his own, so he needs help. But the best episode that I can think of that makes me tear up, Neelix leaves, and as he's leaving, like, Tuvok has hated Neelix this whole time. Like, they've had this love-hate thing going on, and
Who is Tuvok?
Tuvok is the Vulcan science or security officer.
Okay.
And so at the very end, when Neelix is boarding the ship to leave, Tuvok says, "Stop, Neelix. Live long and prosper." And then he dances, and it crushes me. It crushes me so much every time I see that. Oh man, my heart. Now, it has been mentioned, there is word that Patrick Stewart has signed on to return as Captain Kirk.
Yeah, I've heard that.
I don't know, is it for a brand new series, or is it going to go into like the Discovery?
I don't know. I don't know about the details. Okay, here's the deal. Too little, too late. I have no interest in it because it's like the story was told. Fucking move on, you know?
Dude, there are so many more stories in the Star Trek mythos that you can read. Like, some of the books are so much better than any of the episodes. There's a series that I read this last year. I'm having trouble remembering it, but it's basically about the final war with the Borg. It's amazing. It is amazing. So they could go into all kinds of other stories with them, because Picard could become an admiral, and they could do so much. I could see it being successful. As long as it's not like Kirk coming back just to die from falling off a bridge.
Let's bring back Kirk. What are we going to do with him? Let's make him go out like a geriatric old fart. Let's make him bust his hip. Oh, I got to go into traction.
Oh, and I just realized you said your two favorites. And one of my favorites was mentioned in the chat, and that's Q. I absolutely love Q.
Q is great.
Oh man!
And then he turns into a dragon, and he goes and fucks around with some cartoon ponies.
No, Trey, that's not Q.
Yes, it is.
That's the guy that played Q. That's not Q.
No, in my mind, it's the same character.
It's not the same character.
Yes, it is. It's still Q. That's something he does, somewhere else. He can do anything he wants. He's basically omnipotent, omniscient. So that's also Q.
No, that's not Q.
Yes, it is.
Okay, so anyway, I really like Q. Q is one of my favorite characters. And then my second favorite character in Star Trek has to be Spock.
Yeah.
So I'm in agreement with you on that. Spock is everything. he's so logical and just sees through all sorts of situations. It's just incredible. The weirdest thing is if you go back and you watch the pilot and see Spock laugh.
Yeah.
That's weird.
I really like that pilot. You know what? I like that guy who was the captain. Captain Pike, is that the character's name?
Yeah, that's the Captain Pike.
I kind of liked him as an actor more than Shatner.
Shatner, Shatner just overplays everything. Like every scene that Shatner's ever been in, he's just overacting horribly.
There's a thing on the wing of the plane.
Spock,
Spock.
I have to take a shit. I
Spock.
have to take a shit. Take the command.
What would God want with a starship?
That was actually pretty good.
Is that what movie is that?
Oh, that's is that the last one?
I don't remember. Is it the one with vagina?
I don't think so.
Okay. Are you sure?
Maybe
is
it
that
is.
The first one? Is the first movie the one with
vagina?
The
first one is V'ger, not vagina.
Yeah, they have to go find vagina in
not
space.
Vagina, V'ger.
Okay. Whatever you say, man.
You are such an ass.
Correct.
So, how would you like? What do you think about the Star Wars prequels?
I mean, what I don't even want to talk about it because it's been gone over so many times by people who are much more qualified to talk about it than me. Okay, I watched the first one not that long ago, and there were things about it that were fun. There were things about it that were like enjoyable, like that. Just I don't know, some of the character interactions and shit, like fucking Liam Neeson as not Obi-Wan.
Yeah.
And then the other guy who is no Obi-Wan, he was cool. Like they had good actors. It's just everything about it is wrong. Fucking metachlorians and fucking having Anakin be a little kid.
I realized when I shared out this show, I shared out the wrong link.
Yeah.
And it took people to a 54-second ad and then nothing. So that's the absolute best way.
Sure is.
To get a show started. I mean, you gotta just
have people in the chat. Then
we've have some people that followed other links that I had. But yeah, thank you everyone that's made it. Regardless of my idiocy. So you all are awesome.
Oh, Matt.
I should delete it. I should find which one I did that was wrong. So with me and the prequels, I have to say that this discussion that we've had tonight would be a whole lot harder if the prequels didn't exist.
Yeah, no shit. It would, like, if the prequels especially were like replaced by good movies. Like, what if the prequels had been good because George didn't try to do it all himself? What if he had brought in the team, you know, like the writers and shit and directors from the original three? You know, what if he had brought in some of that original team and actually made good movies? Like, my thing is, I don't know that they really even needed to exist at all. The story was told, and it's like everything else is just kind of fluff, and it seems unnecessary to me.
Yeah, it just seems like, I mean, I've watched. Okay, have you watched like Red Letter Media?
Yeah, I just name dropped it earlier, doofus.
Okay, well, no. Have you read the one on the prequels?
Yes, I had name dropped specifically that earlier.
I don't pay attention to anything you say.
Apparently not, you fucking.
It makes the show so much better if I don't pay attention.
Does it? Or does it make it more confusing and then you sound like an old man?
It definitely does.
Where's my pants, mother? Where's my trousers?
Trey, there's nothing good about paying attention to you. Anyway, I was just gonna say, like, one of the things they say on there is that there's no real protagonist. You
Right.
you can't really tell who the protagonist is in the first Star Wars prequel
Yeah.
because like Anakin doesn't even show up until a good portion into the movie. I think like 40 or 45 minutes in.
Hmm.
And then it's about him racing, which that's what people wanted to fucking see. But sadly, the pod racing is probably the coolest scenes in that movie.
Yeah, I kind of.
Apart from fighting Darth Maul.
Yeah. Uh, was Darth Maul? I heard that he was in Solo. Was he? He had like a cameo.
I've yet to see Solo, so I don't
I,
know.
I don't give a shit. Which apparently no one else did either because nobody saw it.
I'm sure there's people in the prequels didn't answer any questions. They just added a bunch of stuff that we didn't want to know.
A bunch of dumb shit. Like you could have kept all of the look of it, even though I don't like that the technology is completely incongruous with the original trilogy made in the fucking 70s. You could have kept the creature designs and all of that could have been the same. And it would have been okay if you had gotten a better fucking story. You need a better story.
Yeah.
And don't have a dumb kid. Kids ruin movies. I love kids. Not in movies. Okay? Unless it's like the Monster Squad. Guess what's not the Monster Squad? Fucking Star Wars.
That's right.
If somebody in Star Wars, like if Luke had kicked the Wolfman guy in the cantina and said Wolfman's got nards, that would have been different.
Qui-Gon Jinn can't be the protagonist. He dies. And it's like he's dead, and it's a senseless death, really. It just, yeah, it pushes it pushes Obi-Wan towards Anakin, but it's senseless. Like Qui-Gon Jinn is the coolest character in that movie. He's dark, he doesn't really do a lot, but he's just there and he knows the Force, and then he's dead. And it's like, well, what?
Nobody does anything in the movie. They wander around and it's like, what is happening? Why is this so long? And it's like it loses too much of the swashbuckling adventure aspect of what made Star Wars good.
Yeah,
okay?
we got to see baby Darth cry.
Yeah, great. Oh, and he built C-3PO, even though C-3PO is clearly like an assembly line factory-made robot. But this particular one he built for no reason whatsoever. It's so dumb. Like, I don't even want to fucking talk about it because it just makes me upset.
Yeah, and it's been mentioned in the chat. Then in the later prequels, they make Anakin turn into the creepy stalker dude that nobody wants to be in a relationship with.
Yeah, right. He should have had some nobility. He shouldn't have been such a whiny fucking teenager. I don't like sand. It's coarse and rough.
Heck, oh my god, the fact that y'all big fans of Star Wars means that this makes it harder for me. Sorry, your sentence there made it hard for me. Frustrated.
Yeah, what the fuck? I thought you were having a stroke.
I think I did.
What's happening? What are you talking about?
Yeah, what's up with the diatribe about sand? Who needs that? Why was that in there? Doesn't make sense. It's just
doesn't know how to write a good
play. And like I will say, the third of the prequels is a decent Star Wars film.
I haven't seen it.
It's decent. It has a plot that you can follow. It's cool towards the end because you can see why Darth Vader needed to be in the suit. It's actually pretty decent.
And then
but
no.
Yes, he turns into James Earl Jones in the end because when you burn vocal cords, it makes them deeper and more sultry.
So stupid. Ugh. See, there's nothing in Star Trek that gets me this upset.
I know, that's the truth.
Fucking Uhura's awkward fan dance. I don't care. Whatever.
It's almost the question of, here's the question though. Because Star Wars makes us so pissed off, does that mean we love Star Wars more?
I don't know.
Like, how can it affect us like
Maybe.
this? Like, are we just not admitting that we love Star Wars more?
No, because like if I had to choose between watching Star Wars, like the original trilogy, and watching like TNG, I probably would pick TNG. You know, like here's the thing. Like I could do a fun you know, weekend marathon of the original 3 Star Wars with some friends. I could do that like once a year. That'd be fun. You know, but if I wanted to go through and like I could spend the whole rest of the year picking out some of my favorite Star Trek episodes or even a couple of really good Star Trek movies, and I could watch those, you know, more often, and I would get more out of it just because, like, intellectually, that's what I like more is Star Trek. I'm not making a lot of sense. I sound like an idiot.
No, I get it. I get it because I like that Star Trek sounds smart. Star Trek's not smart. Okay?
It's not, I mean, it's not like fucking Arthur C. Clarke science fiction.
But I get like a science boner when I hear about reversing the polarity on something.
It's like it's not really even the science in Star Trek that I like. It's the philosophy. It's the philosophical things. It's the, you know, Worf is half a human and he's got, you know, that's a similar dichotomy that Spock had, but with Worf it's like the opposite because the people that he comes from are barbaric and they're, you know, they're violent and he has to deal with that part of himself. And so those are the kinds of things that I like about Star Trek. And what I like about Star Wars is fucking Han Solo and his blaster. He's probably my second favorite Star Wars character because he's fun and he's cool, and Harrison Ford is sexy and he's like got a cool Sasquatch sidekick, and that's neat. And he's got a gun shooting it, and he's like, "Oh, here we go again. I got a bad feeling about this, Chewie. Don't worry, Chewie. I'll get you back for Life Day." You know, it's fun. Is there a Star Trek equivalent to the Star Wars Holiday Special?
There definitely is. It's called a Wesley episode.
Yeah, I don't like Wesley Crusher at all. You could toss Wesley Crusher out of fucking airlock.
Oh, Wesley Crushers. People in the chat are saying that they don't, you know, Frustrated and Secular are like, you guys aren't fans of Star Wars, and so it's mean that you're talking about it. Well, no. You know what? We like Star Wars. We're fans of Star Wars. I've read Star Wars books. I've played the Knights of the Old Republic games, both of them. I had Star Wars gear as a kid. I had Yodas. I had all kinds of stuff. But you know what?
What you bitching? This is Star Wars manga. Yeah. So much fucking Star Wars manga. It's great.
Do you guys have Star Wars manga?
You got Star Wars manga, motherfucker?
Do you?
I do.
Yeah, I don't think you do. I don't think you do. I'm just saying.
The Star Wars manga is really cool because it took like the original script and they just illustrated it with like actual manga artists. It's neat. It's out of print and that sucks. Dark Horse did it like fucking 15 years ago.
You know what I hear here? I see Secular's in there. I'm not saying you don't like it. I'm saying you don't know the lore. Well, we're talking about the movies and the TV shows. We don't need to talk about anything outside of that. If you got to read a book to get the movies, then you got a shitty movie.
Yeah, and the world doesn't interest me enough to get into it. It's just a personal thing.
Yeah. Someone just said in the chat, Trey equals Wesley.
Fuck you! You know what? That's fine. At least my mom's hot. Mm.
But yeah, I'm a big fan of the Star Wars movies, and like I said, I've read numerous Star Wars books and the like, but we were specifically talking about the movies and the TV shows and things like that. So that's what this is about, yo. That's what this is about.
All right, you ready for a hot take? Hot take right here coming through. Ewoks Battle for Endor, best Star Wars film ever.
You know what? I could agree with that. I loved that as a kid. I loved that.
Yeah, it was great. It's got cool monsters and stupid little furry Ewoks, and they're ugly as shit, and I hate them. But it had, like, I don't know, one of those movies had like a giant ogre. That was neat.
Yes.
Super cool. Super cool creatures. Once again, Star Wars has the best creature designs. Absolutely. I fucking love the aliens in Star Wars.
Yes.
They look like aliens. They're weird and creepy and kooky, and they look good. And Star Trek has too many people with goofy plastic shit glued to their head to be an alien.
That's true.
I don't care that there's even an in-universe explanation in Star Trek universe as to why all the aliens are humanoid. Like, I will give them credit. I'm glad that they addressed it.
Yeah.
You know, because, like, I mean, of course, in Star Wars, all the main characters that aren't a puppet or a guy in a suit are just people. People as aliens is so boring and dumb to me. I hate it.
Yeah, but I'm with you on the original, especially the original Star Trek. It's like, this is a human, but they're pink.
Yeah.
They evolved in the exact same way as we did, but with pink skin.
They descended from green apes instead. Whatever.
It's just it's silly.
Yeah.
But well, Trey, we said we were gonna go for an hour.
God, is it over already?
And you didn't even mention the font.
Yeah, I noticed you used the oh yeah. This fucking guy uses fucking Comic Sans. Wish I had mentioned it earlier. I fucking forgot. Comic Sans. I had nothing to do with that decision. Okay, that was not me. That was all him. He's like, I'm going to use Comic Sans because it's like a comic book. Whatever.
No, I used it because I knew it would piss you off.
Well, you were correct. You bastard. You. What does Leia call Han? Nerf herder?
Yes.
Nerf herder?
Something along those lines.
Yeah, well,
Secular said that we didn't bring up the Clone Wars.
I don't care about the Clone Wars. I've never seen it, and I don't care. I mean, I've heard it's fine. That's cool.
Is that the cartoon?
Yeah, it's CGI.
Yeah, the CGI cartoonish thing. I watched some of it. It was okay.
Yeah, I do. I will, however, say the hand-drawn Clone Wars shorts done by the Powerpuff Girls guy, Gendy Tartakovsky, I think his name is. Those are awesome. That was really cool. Because, like, General Grievous is in those, and he's, like, awesome. He's, like, all crawling around like a xenomorph and shit. And the character designs are really good. The artwork in it is good. It's got fun animation. So I will champion those all day long. I haven't seen the Clone Wars series.
You should. I think you would enjoy it. You should probably check it out. Basically,
I don't want to.
I understand, but I think if you boil this down, if you're saying that both of these are sci-fi series, or just in the sci-fi genre, I think that Star Trek just wins. It's much more science fiction than Star Wars is.
That's why I don't consider Star Wars to be straight science fiction. It's science fantasy.
If you take it from science fantasy and then Star Trek is science fiction, they're both great. I enjoy both series.
Absolutely. Star Wars is more like Edgar Rice Burroughs, period. Star Wars is like Edgar Rice Burroughs. It's in that vein of fun, swashbuckling adventures with pirates that are stormtroopers and, evil villains and monsters. It's great. Star Trek has much more in common with, like, your classic science fiction authors and tropes, and looking forward to the future and humanity's potential. And it's much more of like a philosophy based than a swashbuckling adventure based. It has adventure, of course, because otherwise it would just be boring. But they're just so different. They're so different, and I like them I like them both in different ways. I do like Star Trek more, just because it's more of what I'm looking for from a science fiction story.
And it's so much more in depth. Like you really get to love the characters in Star Trek. Star Wars, yeah, there's characters that I like, but you don't really learn a lot of the backstory, which is why we have the prequel movies being made now for like Han. But yeah, you know what, Clade? I think both of us would agree Doctor Who still wins.
Yeah, I was going to say that. I forgot. I like Doctor Who better than both.
Yes. Doctor Who.
Doctor Who.
Doctor Who, hands down. It's like if you added this in, we wouldn't even have been talking about Star Wars or Star Trek.
Yeah. Like, that's not a joke. I like Doctor Who more. Because Doctor Who is weird. If you want to grab my attention for your science fiction or even your fantasy story, it's got to be weird. Weird as fuck. And you got to have weird shit like little pepper pot alien machines that have grumpy aliens inside then they're space Nazis. And just all the fun shit in Doctor Who. I think I would also probably say that Doctor Who is science fantasy, because none of it's particularly realistic from a science fiction standpoint, But I like it. I like that it's very strange, and it also has a lot of those philosophical aspects that I like. Like, one of my favorite adventures is from the John Pertwee era, and it's the Silurians. And I saw it first as a kid, and I thought it was amazing because you had the Doctor talking to these inhuman creatures, and he wasn't just like, we've got to shoot the aliens. That was what all the people were doing. But the Doctor's like, no, they're intelligent, and we should talk to them, and we should come together and work shit out. And, of course, I love the Silurians because they're like dinosaur guys, and they had a big, terrible-looking dinosaur watchdog that would slither around in their caves and shit. And I could go on and on about fucking classic Doctor Who all day because I love it. So, personally, what wins between Star Trek and Star Wars? Doctor Who.
I totally agree. Trey, they are asking about an after show. Would you mind doing a short after show on my Godless Island Patreon after this? Okay, so we will be having a short after show on the Godless Island Patreon account. You can find that link below. For just $1 to my patron account a month, you get access to all the after shows. So I'll set that up. But you know what? We put this together. I had the intro down where I said salutations to the nerdy nation. But I don't have an outro. So what's our outro?
Get fucked, losers. I don't